1991 to 1994 and was Subbarao Nilekani Chair Professor from 2000 to 2013. Dr. Phatak started the country's first interactive distance learning program using VSATs, which has now blossomed into the Center for Distance Engineering Education. He is regarded as the pioneer of smart card usage in financial transactions in India. Dr. Phatak had a dream in 90s. He wanted digital payments to be available to everyone, including common people and even street vendors. His idea inspired him to focus on smart card technology. Now we see his dream come true. Almost everyone uses UPI payments today thanks to his vision. In 1996, he initiated the national project to deploy this technology for banking debit credit applications. This project was supported by Reserve Bank of India, State Bank of India, and multiple vendors. He set up the Affordable Solutions Lab ASL at IIT Bombay in 2000, which attempts to develop low-cost technology solutions. Through ASL, he popularized use of thin clients in Indian classrooms and open source multimedia e-tools for e-learning. He has been the chairman of National Board of IT Education and Research of AICTE. He had joined IIT Indore as chairperson, including Board of Governors. He is an open source evangelist in India and has pioneered several initiatives to popularize free and open source for each. In March 2012, he was given the responsibility of executing prestigious Akash project of National Mission. In 1983 and 84, Dr. Phatak helped setting up Department of Computer Science in his alma maters, SDSITS, and initiated the BE program in computers. He spent subsequent summer at DAVV Indore to set up the computer center and initiate MCA program. He has played a leading role in this through various initiatives like the Eklavya project, which focused to train 10,000 teachers at a time about learner-centric MOOCs. As an expert in databases and information systems, he has been a consultant and advisor to a number of organizations and ministries on various issues related to information technology. In the financial sector, he has been an IT advisor to SBI, RBI, UTI, IDBI, LIC, SEBI, NSDL, etc. He is a permanent invitee to the Payment System Board of RBI and also chairs the IT committee of SEBI. He has served on several companies and institutions including IDBI Bank, UTI ISL, Bank of Baroda, IGNOU, NIA and NIT Agartala. He currently serves on the boards of HDFC, AMC, Arbit, IBPS, VJTI, etc. Dr. Phatak is recipient and the Industrial Impact Research Award from IIT Bombay. He was conferred Lifetime Achievement Awards by Scotch Foundation in 2003, by DataQuest in 2008, and he was also conferred by Devang in 2010, Interlope in 2014, by IIT Bombay in 2014, and by CSI in 2018. He was listed among 50 most influential Indians by Business Week in 2009. The President of India honored Dr. Deepak Phatak sir with Padma Shri in 2013 in recognition of his exemplary services eventually leading the world. So this is very short introduction of your vast tenure. Please forgive me for shortening it and missing out some important details due to time constraints. Thank you, sir.
you, ma'am. I would like to request Dr. S.R. Devne to felicitate Professor Dr. Deepak Phatak, sir. Request to Lokhande sir to please felicitate the Deepak Phatak, sir. Thank you, sir. I would like to request Dr. V.M. Berari, sir, to say few words about the institute.
Good morning, all of you. Dignitaries of the dais. Let me introduce about the Maratha Vidya Prasarak Samaj and Karmavir Advocate Baburao Ganpatrao Thapre College of Engineering. Maratha Vidya Prasarak Samaj is one of the most prestigious centers of learning in the state of Maharashtra. It has been over 110 years that has stood the test of time to become the legend of unparalleled structure. It manages 492 educational institutes and it is one of the premier organizations in the jurisdictions of Savitribai Phule Pune University. At present, total strength of the students is around 2 lakhs and 10,000 plus staff. Enthusiastic and devoted team of social workers who were inspired by the lives of Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, Savitribai Phule and Rajeshri Shahu Maharaj of Kolhapur, Karmavir Ramsaheb Thorat, Bhausaheb Hire, Kakasaheb Wagh, Annasaheb Murkate, Ganpat Dada More, D.R. Bhosle, who laid the foundations of Samaj, Advocate Baburao Ganpatrao Thapre, Advocate Vittalrao Hande, and Dr. Vasantrao Pawar are the major contributors of the Samaj. They were the devotees who envisioned a culture and knowledge of the centric society. The motto of the Samaj is Bahujan Hitaya Bahujan Sukhaya, for the well-being of the happiness of the masses to kindle the social cause. The MBP SAMAJ'S Karmavir Advocate Baburao Ganpatrao Thapre College of Engineering was established in year 1999. The college is the permanently affiliated to Savitribai Phule Pune University and approved by DT and AICT New Delhi. Our institution's 5 programs are accredited by NBA for 3 years and NAC accredited by A++ grade. At present, college provides 4-year courses leading to the Bachelor's of Engineering of Savitribai Phule University in Mechanical Engineering, Computer Engineering, Instrumentation Control Engineering, Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, Civil Engineering, Information Technology, Artificial Intelligence and Data Science, along with the postgraduate courses in MBA, Mechanical Engineering and Civil Engineering. And recently, last year, we also received the Research Center for MBA as well as for Civil Engineering. This is about our institute. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like to invite Dr. S.R. Devne, sir, to say few words in the honor of our guest.
Good morning all. मला वाटतं मी जास्त बोलण्यापेक्षा सगळं ऐकलेच आणि तुम्ही सर्व लोकांनी माझ्या प्रत्येक दिवशी काही ना काहीतरी उदाहरण सरांचे ऐकलेलेच आहेत. तुम्ही सरांना आजच म्हणलं की एक टेलिपॅथी असते. मला वाटतं की 5 वर्षांनी एचओडी मीटिंग घेत असताना नाही सरांना भेटायचंच असं ज्यावेळेस आम्ही ठरवलं होतं, मला वाटतं दुसऱ्या तिसऱ्या दिवशी सरांचा मेल आला मी नाही मी नाशिकला येतोय आणि भेटायचं आहे. तेच म्हणायचं तो जो टेलिपॅथीचा भाग म्हणा का काय जो भाग म्हणा. आणि आज म्हणजे मी पण सरांना जवळपास 6 मुंबईत असताना 3 वर्ष भेटलो आणि मी चालल्या 3 वर्ष जवळपास 6 वर्ष झाले आमची भेट झाली नव्हती. तर मी मला वाटतं स्टेज सरासाठीच मोकळा करतो कारण त्यांचाही टाइम कन्स्टंट आहे. अँड प्लीज लिसन केअरफुली. थँक्यू ऑल.
Thank you, sir. In the rapidly evolving landscape of education, technological advancement have played a pivotal role in reshaping the way institutions operate. One such revolutionary development is the integration of AI into education management system. So to know about advancement, we are fortunate to have with us today distinguished speaker who is noted figure in science and technology. I am honored to invite Professor Dr. Deepak Phatak sir to share his valuable insights.
Hello, testing. Looks good to me. Thank you. Acha. So good morning everybody. Good morning. I must confess at the beginning that I am no expert in artificial intelligence and machine learning. I've been telling this to people again and again, but people keep asking me to talk about that subject because that is the most current. So because of these requests, I actually ended up learning something, at least peripherally. And being a teacher, my primary interest was in education. So I just looked at the developments in AI ML and wondered how these will shape the education in future. And I want to share some of the ideas with you. Oops. Yeah. You have to remember to link it here. So basically, if you look at the origin of intelligence, we have, as life, carbon-based life, have been evolving for 4 billion years. But the machines based on silicon, mostly digital computers, have evolved only for last 75 years. How do we relate to what is happening in the realm of machines as compared to what has happened to us? And it is in that context that we should talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning. I'll very briefly describe the happenings in the 21st century that all of you will be familiar with. And it is in that context that I would like to speak about our education system. So, this is again very well known. So what is curious is you look at the exponential growth in the evolution of carbon as the earth formed, the water formed, the oxygen came and so on. Animals have relatively younger history, only 580 million years. Out of that, the mammals actually are 35-40 million years. They're roughly coinciding with the India colliding with the Eurasian plate on the geographical terms. Humans, that is us, are only 3 million years old. Curiously, the language, natural languages that we speak, they have evolved only over 100,000 years. So for several million years, the humanity was still struggling like other animals. But the evolution of natural languages have given a phenomenal fillip to the human endeavors, unlike any other mammals or any other animal life. Most importantly, when the written language or script originated around 6,000 years ago only. That is when the written history of humanity started. And what has happened in the last 6,000 years is absolutely amazing. So, you look at these bars, 4 billion years, as compared to that, human life of 3 million years appears itself very small. Language is just a small line, and the written script is just a dot there. So just to emphasize how quickly things have developed, you look at just the animal development, human development, language development, and the written script. One wonders why the machines have moved up the chain of intelligence very rapidly, but please understand that this rapidity is inherent in the human development, and of particular importance, of course, is the 6,000 years of the letter. So we are all aware of this. The written script, or lipi as we call it permitted knowledge capture and knowledge share. Earlier, the only way of sharing knowledge was verbal interaction. In fact, Indian knowledge traditions have always been Maukik Parampara, Guru to Shishya and so on. So, but script changed everything. Everyone would have known about Gutenberg, the originator of the printing press, which helped facilitate spread of knowledge. And collaborative innovation then became really the order of the day across multiple human societies, not within a single society. This led to the Industrial Revolution. So, more innovation and more financial growth followed the initial impetus for the convenient and comfortable life. And this cycle sort of continued. Amazing, what should I say, neural infrastructure. You just count the humongous information its animal heritage or life heritage. One is self-preservation, and the second is replication. The replication that happens carries forward the genetic knowledge, but the acquired knowledge which has been accumulated and which has been codified in script form. So each individual entity must learn. The individual entity is born with phenomenal neural infrastructure, but learning of the acquired knowledge by humanity, particularly in the last 6,000 years, has to be learned. And that is why we spend almost 20 plus years in educating ourselves from the school. Well, I said 20 plus years because the education does not start in the school. It starts at home, where my mother, my father, my guardians helped me grow. Oh my God. I'm sorry, I forgot to switch this off. My mistake. I should have silenced it earlier. So, the learning continues through schools, then college, and then somehow the society announces that all right, the young man or woman is now fully educated. And by fully educated, we mean educated in a particular stream. But that's how long it takes for a human being to acquire the knowledge that has been acquired by the humanity. After learning, these individual entities become part of a society. These societies actually have also emerged, and you all know the history of last 6,000 years. So there are societies which are now nation states, and people in different nations have different rate of progress, different status as we know it. We generally calculate it on the base of gross domestic product or per capita income, maybe normalized over different groups. So it is this backdrop against which the silicon appeared. The silicon revolution is considered to have started in 1948 when the first transistor was, curiously the first transistor did not deploy silicon, but it used germanium. But however, it was soon found that silicon is probably the best way. And you all know basic chemistry where silicon and carbon are actually close cousins. So silicon-based life is what I call it now. Started evolving only from 1948. So Bardeen, Shockley and Brattain, who invented transistor. And then rest of the progress actually has been phenomenal. So evolution of discrete computer, discrete components to printed circuit boards and integrated circuits. Some of you may remember the early days when we used to call that small scale integration, medium scale integration, large scale integration, very large scale integration, very, very large scale integration, and people ran out of terms. We just call them a chip. So algorithms actually came earlier than electronics, but it evolved very nicely and coupled nicely with the development in electronics. Revenge of silicon is a term which was coined by my friend Professor Balkrishnan of ISC. So Balki said silicon came late in life, but it is actually extracting a revenge on carbon. So basically commenting on how the carbon-based life, which actually created silicon-based life, but silicon is actually taking a revenge on the carbon. That was his term. But the point is that complex systems very quickly evolve, and amazing strides in software technology coupled with development in electronics has changed the world. The capabilities of modern digital computers combining hardware and software. So computers have always become faster, smaller and cheaper. And the growth is absolutely phenomenal. You all know of embedded systems. I mean, Internet of Things depends on embedded systems, small systems, which each one of us actually, we are a whole lot of electronics with embedded systems inside. The spread of silicon intelligence started happening when silicon started talking to each other. So computing entities which were sort of standalone, I mean, they used to be some sort of local area network and so on, but when large networks across the globe started, starting with ARPANET, you have then internet, and you have now bandwidths which were measured in terms of bytes per second, kilobytes per second, megabits per second, gigabits per second, etc., etc. So we just call them internet large bandwidths. Here is my favorite, Tim Berners-Lee, who invented internet. He was actually working with a group of physicists in CERN, not in computer science in the main universities of US or UK. But he defined what we call HTTP and HTML, HTTP protocol and HTML language, and world changed completely. Because the ease with which you could actually pass on information with very focused points where you could click and access any connected information easily. So that is how the world changed completely. So today, this is the kind of picture that you have, where we talk of everything with a large back-end servers in a cloud, and you and I connect to the cloud through whatever mechanisms that we have. This is how the world is today. What is the advantage that silicon has over carbon-based life? because it's a man-made thing, man-made life, and therefore we designed it to be similar to any other engineering product that we make. Which means what? Identical replication is possible. So, producing human beings identically is not possible. The replication mechanism is completely different, it's biology. But in silicon, you can make millions of identical machines, millions of identical devices. It's a mass production. Secondly, it's a quick reinstantiation. When you make a machine, you can download the essential algorithms, what we call operating system, programs, application software, and including data. So you can reinstantiate a computer to be identical to the other computer in the shortest possible time. It's like training a human being in literally zero time, exactly to the same level of knowledge and information that other human being has, which is the other computer. There is a very fundamental difference. Human beings cannot replicate. So millions of machines which you may say are equally intelligent, if we take the word intelligence in a sort of broad sense. Second, the individual computers now communicate directly. So some computers can generate data, some can process, yet other can digest and use it. And that is how the world of computers has phenomenally enlarged. In this century particularly, you will find that this is a completely connected world. And the connection or connectivity is increasing rapidly. Secondly, data collection, storage, processing is increasing exponentially. And so earlier we talked of programming be part and parcel of the computing life. But more importantly, extensive sensor network, Internet of Things, and what now we call smart cities. Hopefully, well, that's a separate topic altogether. My own contention is you can talk of smart gadgets, smart systems, smart cities, but it is essentially important to make people smarter so that they can use these smartly. It is in this context that we should appreciate what artificial intelligence is. Surprisingly, it's not a new term. A long time ago, Alan Turing called it machine intelligence. I don't know how many of you are aware, but supervised and unsupervised classification, which is the basic building block of AI today, is nothing new. I recall having studied these two chapters from Duda and Hart's book in 1972, published in 1970. What has made the difference from 72 to now? The main difference is the data available at that time was minuscule, was extremely difficult to get, storage was costly. Let me digress a bit to tell you an interesting story when me and my student were working on ECG analysis, electrocardiogram. So we had a mainframe called, Russian mainframe called EC1030. So we would painstakingly go to IIT hospital and get those ECG records, printed records, hand digitize them, punch the data on the cards, feed them inside, and then use our modeling techniques to fit exponentials and so on. Our ambition was that by that analysis we should be able to say what is the problem in the ventricle wall, etc., etc. And I think we did a good job, fairly good job. Then Sherlaker even got a best IEEE paper award on that. Except that my colleagues highly commented that you will do fantastic ECG analysis, but the patient will be long dead before your analysis is complete. That used to be the time it used to take. I mean, can you imagine large amount of data being stored on punch cards? We had a disk. It had a fantastic capacity of 7.25 megabytes, large disk, the Russian disk. So those are hopelessly bad times. Today that is not so. It advanced so much in last 30 years, both the processing capabilities and storage. I mean, I remember when I first bought a gigabyte disk. I was heading the computer science department then in 91, and the cost of 1 gigabyte disk drive when introduced was 3,25,000 rupees, and it suddenly came down to 2,70,000. And my colleague says, Phatak, we must have a gigabyte disk. So to purchase 1 gigabyte disk, I had to appoint a committee of 3 professors to go through the tender process. It took 3 months. And when the disk actually came, the entire faculty almost like, we said Ganpati Bappa Moraya and got it. Several years later, when I was talking to my son when he was studying in Vajal College, had come to Mumbai, and I saw some things on his table. Aditya Kai had discs. He had gone to Lamington Road and purchased those discs. No RFP, no bidding, no process, not even permission from his father. And each disk was several gigabytes. Today you get terabyte disk storage at affordable. Same thing about computing. So you see the growth there has also been exponential. And I would suggest please keep in mind the human growth also has been exponential in animal world. The same link, same sort of trait is found. So I will now share with you some examples of use of AI that is commonly known. By the way, I have prepared an annex which I have requested to be circulated. Basically references to most of these and some interesting interactions with ChatGPT. So many of you might have heard of this project initiated by Google. So automatic driverless cars. Now these use a number of digital technologies, multiple cameras. They use not radar but LiDAR or light detection engine. So the difference is radar is very good to detect objects at very far distance. But LiDAR is good at short distance, but they can give you a completely human observable image kind of. So they use dynamic object detection very heavily, and that permits continuous course correction by a car, which is automatically being done. The computing power inside the car, I am not just talking about cameras, sensors, and analyzing images, but the actual is absolutely phenomenal. The learning of a car is based on humongous data collected at the back. And please remember, replication in computer world is instantaneous. So when one computer is designed and is taught to use all the data that you have, accumulated data, and using the learning models, it adapts itself. And that computer now can take snap decisions. Replicating it is just an instantiation, which is instantaneous. The learning is really based on very, very large amount of data. So here is a Waymo self-driving car. This is a car in traffic. These are all experiments done in US, but all other cars have human drivers. This car has none. This project can be accessed at this. I have included that in the references also. And there is a short film which is worth seeing to understand the power and capabilities of AI-based algorithms to actually detect and help running a driverless car. So let us see some of the screenshots. I don't know whether you can notice, but this car here, there is the green patch that you see is the path that has been outlined for the driverless car on which the car is moving. Suddenly it notices another car standing here, but the door is opening. And this opening of the door is sensed by the cameras, understood by the algorithms, And immediately the car path changes to accommodate opening of the door. So what is interesting is, you can now see that the car door is completely open. But this car has taken, anticipated, exactly like how we would drive on the street. Okay? This was the lady who came out of that car actually. Ordinarily she could have been crushed if the driverless car was mundanely following its instinctive thing. This is a LiDAR image prepared by the camera on board, which was subsequently looked at and analyzed. And then this car continues on its path. So you see, this is just to illustrate, you should see that video and several other things. Incidentally, the Waymo open data set is an amazing collection of data. Ordinarily, companies keep this data for themselves. But Google opened it up for research purposes. You can't exploit that research for commercial gains. Obviously, Google would want a pie, a part of the pie that you so develop. But this data set is available. And so, there are two different data sets, perception data set and motion data set. A huge amount of data. That is accessible to all, you and me. You can use that data for image processing, for image analysis, for object analysis, for algorithms for making whatever you want. So driverless car of Google is a project which has, so they have covered these many sites. They have different environments like downtown, suburban. You go to roads of nice. I mean, I was aware of the funny driving in Pune, where people who want to, that is called swarm intelligence, and that technique is used in artificial intelligence algorithms to do that. By the way, these slides or these photographs are not from any Firang nation. Very much. In fact, this is a company in the city of Pune, where young people like your students who passed out and become professionals have developed these algorithms and are building this. They save almost 30% in space and 30% in efforts in managing a warehouse of this kind. What is happening here? Solar panels, all of you are familiar with this. But imagine when you have large number of solar panels and they have been put in place for some time, like any other engineering system, they will develop some defects. Now, which of the defects are critical and which of the defects are okay? How do you know? So you can do aerial photography. You can get the spots as on the left-hand side. But by applying AI techniques, you can analyze these spots based on thousands of such spots seen and detected and analyzed earlier, that data you have. And you can now say that this particular spot on this particular panel requires attention. You don't have to spend manpower because it's difficult to access the solar panels and repair everything. So this is a small but very important contribution that AI can make in such tasks. This is an object detection in AI. So you can see this. Actually, you go to this reference, you can see these colored spots. So AI has detected that these are available slots for parking. So actually a car comes and tries to go out from here. There is another car which is approaching. As this car enters this slot, the slot changes its color. And the collision is prevented between this car and this car because of the detection that these things are actually. So this is an example of a parking lot. In India, we cannot afford such large parking lots, so we park haphazardly. So perhaps AI is needed far more in India in order to help us park things properly. Aerial survey. Aerial survey is nothing new, but drones. Again, drones are not new. But doing an aerial survey using back-end AI techniques where you have trained the model using a large amount of data will make your survey absolutely perfect and without any human intervention. Here is another of my favorite. Mustafa is the name of this gentleman. He writes blogs on the web and tries to teach people how to use AI in normal programming to handle object detection. So he has actually a drone flying in his lab which takes photographs. So it is taking his own photographs and his AI model is able to actually model the movement of his limbs and other things. So you can actually, I mean, this is amazing techniques which are now easily applicable. I have another screenshot which actually shows a program from his tutorial. Young people, school students are actually using these things to do fancy stuff. Okay. There are hundreds and hundreds of examples where artificial intelligence is helping sort of ordinary mundane computers to behave more intelligently in the sense that they are trained by a large amount of data at the back end, and because of the quick replication you can replicate these systems anywhere. It is in this development context that we should appreciate what is happening in this 21st century, which perhaps did not happen earlier. So, first and foremost, individual nation states which spent maximum energy in developing things for themselves and for local economy. For the first time, humanity as a whole is attempting to solve large human-sized problems. This has not happened to that extent in the previous centuries. Digital technologies are being used so heavily that there is hardly any part of human life which is not covered by it. In fact, I was discussing with the new MD of Bank of Baroda and their advisor, and they said, Professor Phatak, we have come to believe that banking these days is more like running an IT company with some banking thrown in. So that is the inroads that information technology has made into all spheres. And this will continue. So there is hardly a solution without the digital part. Why I state this is that unfortunately our university system has still largely continued on the same classification of engineering. When I was a student, it was mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, civil engineer. And we had a 5-year course, by the way, but we were told that no matter what engineer you become, you must understand the basics of engineering. Mechanical engineering was considered always the mother of all. So no matter you are an electrical engineer, but you must understand what a heat engine is, you must understand this, etc. Nowadays we have a 4-year program for BTech, which means the basic engineering courses have practically disappeared. And now we have this beautiful, complete isolation of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computer science. I am tempted to share with you a story when the first vertical PC came to my lab in late 80s. It was kept in the lab and my students were working. It was open in the ACM. And I was shocked to see, earlier the PCs used to be horizontal PCs. So what this smart fellow had done is, those 4 knobs under the horizontal PC, he had removed them and put them on one side and turned the PC that became a vertical model. But when you opened it, the switch mode power supply was on the top. That is how he. And fans were all hidden. So I asked my students, don't you see anything wrong with this? So they moved around. They said, no sir, it's working all right for last 2 days. I said, where is the center of gravity? So then someone remembered, the switch mode power supply is the heaviest item. It should have been at the bottom, not at the top, but it was at the top. Then I said, how will the PCBs cooled. So how is the heat flow? Then one bright student said, heat flow. Sir, that is mechanical engineering problem. We are computer science. So I will have nothing to do with heat flow. What nonsense. In fact, when I shared this with my colleague, Professor Uday Gaitonde, he was so rad. He called all computer science students for a 1-hour tutorial on heat transfer in mechanical engineering. You must understand this basically. The point is, machine intelligence and data analytics will now be an integral part of most solutions. The associated point is, not all of us need to understand how AI works or how to make it work. There will be people who will do it, but we must understand that use of AI is going to change the way solutions are built and solutions will be built. United States National Academy of Engineers published a list of 14 grand challenges at the beginning of this century. They said these are century-long challenges, which means in their opinion, it may take a full century for even the high technological 21st century human society to solve these problems. And which are these problems? I listed them, some of them here. Two of them are written in bold: reverse engineering the brain and advanced personalized learning. Both of these are actually intrinsically related to human education. So I'll speak about that slightly later, but you look at all the problems. Provide access to clean water, engineer better medicine. These are generic human problems across nations, across society. All nations have adopted similar grand challenges. Even India has adopted most of the 14 grand challenges. Very little is known about the huge collaborative work that is going on. But I would strongly say that those of you who are interested should look up the UNE website and see the development that is being reported there. And much of that knowledge is shared very easily. Reverse engineering the brain does not mean creating an artificial brain. That is not at all the objective. What it means is understand functioning of the human brain. Please note that our understanding of human brain today is absolutely minuscule and superficial. You know, people say they can measure the signals moving across neural networks and internal neural networks and so on. So all of you are familiar with PCs and the various circuits that you have. Suppose I told you that you measure voltages and current flowing through these circuits, microvolts, milliamperes, in all the millions of connections, and then claim you have understood the abstraction of operating system or programming language. That will be nonsense, isn't it? Our understanding of human brain is exactly at that nascent stage. The intrinsic human brain is so complicated. Don't forget, God has taken actually 4 billion years to be truthful, but at least several million years to create this phenomenal thing. It's not easy to understand it, but we're trying to understand. And maybe if we succeed after maybe a century-long effort, this will open new avenues for us to understand intelligence and consciousness better. I don't think we have understood it yet. Intelligent behavior is described variously by different people. But human intelligence and particularly human consciousness are two extraordinary things. Machines are nowhere near that. In fact, nobody is attempting the machines to be empowered with that. So, human intelligence and human consciousness, I will give some additional comments on this later. But what is happening in real life because of the inundated spread of digital technologies that did with AI. Price Waterhouse report in 2015 said, in 15 years, United States will lose 38% of conventional jobs, Germany will lose 35%, UK will lose 30%. by 2030, is 7 years ahead of us. Conventional jobs may be lost. New jobs will be less in numbers, and existing jobs will require new skills. A young friend of mine, Professor Andrew Ng, is a adjunct professor in Stanford. He was the co-founder. His first course on machine learning was attended by 100,000 people across the world. Very young but very dynamic guy. Few years ago, when I was visiting US, he called me and said, Phatak, I want you to meet my new team of deep learning and set up a new company. He told me he spent 3 months in interviewing individuals on what they do. So various jobs, clerical jobs, managerial jobs, etc. And he said, Professor Phatak, I interviewed 600 people and I did not find a single job description that cannot be completely handled by a computer. 600 different jobs. If you permit Andrew Ng, those will be obsolete. Thankfully, there is only one Andrew Ng. He has not been replicated yet. But the danger to conventional jobs is real. Does it mean all conventional jobs will be lost? No. But conventional jobs will require extra additional functionality to be performed by the human being. And unfortunately, our education system is not creating that extra learnability among our students. We are still stuffing them with what we fixed syllabus, fixed subject, etc. What is very, very important is, along with all those things, of course, enhance the learnability of every individual so that the life has to go ahead. Some of the things in unfolding in this century, in 21st century, where AI will have impact. Healthcare solutions, autonomous systems, I showed some examples of Waymo. Education and skill development, which concerns us and about which I'll speak a little bit. Natural language processing, which has been a sort of human area all along, is now very much a machine. Again, NLP is not something new. I mean, in my own institute, NLP research has been going on for the last 30, 40 years. But what is happening now, because the humongous processing power that you have, NLP has taken a completely different direction. Space exploration, energy optimization, all of these are very important. But one new thing that AI is now dictating almost is the need for a framework which will define ethical boundaries and regulatory problems. Not related to intelligence, these are related to human emotions. And these have impact on the intelligence behavior displayed by human beings. This is unparalleled and is unlikely to be duplicated or replicated by machines very soon. The machines, on the other hand, will exhibit increasing behavior which is intelligent behavior, but not decision making as human beings do, and it will certainly not have these features. My friend Mr. Ravi is Deputy Governor of Reserve Bank, I think correctly said that machine intelligence is non-biological intelligence. The biological intelligence still will continue to rule supreme, but it will be augmented significantly by the non-biological. The world will be exciting, but it will be different, and we have to prepare ourselves for that difference, which I believe the education system currently is not doing. Here is how the world is evolving. So this is something completely different. Unfortunately, this is part of science. Management is some completely different. I mean, every human activity requires management. But we don't teach management as a compulsory, hard requirement in all disciplines. Management students are different. So they are recognized by ordinary engineering folks as people who wear ties, who get higher salaries, and who study something which they themselves can never explain what they are studying. the global picture. This was, by the way, outlined by Hans Rosling. I would request you to look at the book called Factfulness, which he wrote. The first chapter of Factfulness is available in plain PDF, and it consists of a series of questions which Hans Rosling used to ask people, not ordinary people. There are the same questions to leaders in Davos, there are the same questions to leading academicians, he has asked the same questions to college students about the state of affairs in the world. So one of the questions he had asked was, how many girl students in developing world complete their primary education? And there were answers like less than 10%, 50%, more than 80%. Most people said less than 10%. The correct answer is greater than 80%. And he says that is because people have formed the opinion about the world based on the past data 20, 30 years ago. They are not aware of what is happening today. So he has taken UNDP data of development, he has classified the world into 4 categories of earnings, $2, $4, $8, $16 per day kind of thing, adjusted to PPP, and shows how the world population has moved from extremely low income to reasonably good income. In fact, he predicts that 60% people at level 4, the highest income group, will be in Asia by 2040. So 60% of the richest people in the world will be from Asia, from India, China, Japan, Indonesia, Malaysia. It is not a coincidence that today the nation says that we want to be recognized as a developed country. It is indeed the state. And I think we are on the right track, exactly as predicted. Now a developed nation has to behave differently, particularly in terms of 2 things to learn for 15, 16, 17, 18 years. The youngest days, 0 to 3 years, 4 years, the parents teach the child. In any household, there may be 2, 3, 4 children, and there are 2 parents. There is almost 1 teacher to 1 student ratio. But you take the student to the what you call lower KG or upper KG, there are suddenly 15, 16 students. Take the student to school, there are 30 students. Take the student to the college, there are 70 students. So you see, that is because we are unable to provide the number of teachers which are required to actually address every human learning problem. So what we have done is we have built systems which can operate at scale. That is why we have schools, colleges, etc., etc. In fact, it's very interesting to note that what UGC and AICTE prescribe, the ratio of teachers to students, ideally it should be 1:10, at least in IIT system, or maybe 1:20. So you see, the government at the highest level in India considers that 1 teacher for 10 students is okay. 1 teacher for 20 students is okay. And that ratio does not tell you the whole story. If I have 2,000 students and if I have 100 teachers, the ratio is 1:20. But when you see an individual teacher teaching a subject to individual students, there are 70, 80, 100 students in my class. Where is the ratio of 1:20? The IIT system functions because we have a large battery of TAs, teaching assistants. These are our MTech students or PhD students. Now imagine Satish, when he is doing his PhD, he is actually participating as a TA in training those people. That is how the system works. The other educational systems do not have that luxury. But we have to do something about it, because otherwise the system is getting broken. First of all, I don't see any change in the classroom model, at least in few more decades, for 2 reasons. One is there is no other alternative thing to scale up education that we require. And second is the society and the employers have somehow come to believe in our degrees and diplomas that we give. It will be very interesting to see if the industry say, I don't care whether somebody has a degree or not. somebody can demonstrate useful knowledge that I require, that is good enough for me. What will happen to the arrogance of the academic system of the country and the world? We survive because the society believes in the degrees that we must remember that and therefore provide value for every degree that we have. Our model involves grouping and classification. So we have school, primary school, secondary school, higher secondary school, college, university, undergraduate education, postgraduate education. Then we have divisions, arts, commerce, science, professional programs, law, medicine, whatever. And as I said, the moment we evolve a classification, people have so much energy that they isolate themselves very quickly. So each group is solidly isolated from other groups. That is our education system. The current model of education provides a fixed syllabus and a fixed duration of the program. This is completely unrealistic. If I have 70 students in my class, to assume that in a semester the prescribed syllabus can be equally well understood by each of the 70 students within a semester is nonsense, it's unrealistic. Because every student has a different way of learning, has a different speed of learning. If I was the only teacher for a student, I would know the learning habits of that student. And I would accordingly teach that student. And I will tell him कि बाबा रे ये समझने को तेरे को 10 महीने लगेंगे, 6 महीने में नहीं होगा. Or someone I can say, oh, you can learn this within 2 months, learn something more. Because I can account for individualism if I have the liberty to handle an individual. I don't. I have to handle 70 people. So what I do? I treat the average of the class as my will stop. But semester system or yearly system fixed syllabus have become part and parcel of our current educational system, which is unfortunate. We do provide for some students to take 1 year longer, 2 extra semesters by failing in some courses, so that they repeat the course and presumably they learn that course better. As all of us know, that does not happen really. All that the failed student does is ensure that it does not fail again in the exam next time. The semester or year-long courses have lectures, tutorials, some labs, and assignments, tests and examinations. The teaching is largely focused on what we call 3 pillars of education: content, delivery and assessment. Everybody agrees these are the 3 things emphasized anywhere in it. Learning translates into scoring good marks. Please understand that the description of these terms, content, delivery and assessment, these 3 pillars, do not involve the word teaching anywhere. It is implied that if you do these 3 things well, then you are teaching. It is implied. Similarly, scoring good marks in examination does not include learning explicitly. It is implied that if you score good marks, you must have learned something useful. Whether that something is useful or not, the world decides later. How will artificial assistance help us in this model? First of all, personalized learning experiences. These can be created by AI because they can model an individual learning behavior because the data is now available. Intelligent tutoring systems, again, not new. Some 40, 50 years we have been talking about these, but these systems have now really become what we call intelligent systems. Adaptive curriculum. This is something which we have never tried. The curriculum which is adapted for every student individually, based on the background of the student, based on the learning ability of the student, etc., etc., etc. And skill training. So, how do you help people in understanding the changing job requirement or work requirement and prepare them for that? Conventional syllabi do not address that. Hopefully, the AI-assisted systems will help us in such adoption. And AI can help us do targeted training better. I would just quote two examples. All of you are familiar with these names. One is the Google search versus ChatGPT. Incidentally, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So the transformer type of artificial intelligence is rather a new phenomenon, and a very nice research paper actually opened up the transformer kind of AI, and generative transformation is at the core of what we call the ChatGPT, which is developed by OpenAI. Google search will give you large number of references which you must read individually. ChatGPT, which uses what we call the large language model and natural language processing, is actually able to converse with you almost in human language. I have given some examples of ChatGPT interaction in my annexure. But these things are changing very rapidly. Incidentally, ChatGPT, which is available to ordinary mortals like us, is in version 3.5, where you can ask questions in natural language and it responds in natural language. Although the responses are rather primitive because they are based on the humongous amount of data that has been scraped across the websites of the world. Exactly like what Google does. Google gives you a series of references. ChatGPT actually collects and intelligently analyzes that and gives you that. Use of AI to provide individual assistance to learner has been attempted by several people, but the best I found was by Sal Khan's assistant called Khanmigo. All of you have heard of Khan Academy? Yes. Khan Academy tutorials. One of the reasons why they are extremely popular is because they don't ape the ordinary educational system of 1 hour lecture or 40-minute lectures. They are 10-minute tutorial, and they actually look at the attention span of an individual working alone at home, not more than 10 minutes. In fact, the people curiously who recognize the limited attention span of an individual sitting at home are the television people. So you're used to seeing a lot of serials, etc. on TV. After every 7.5 minutes, there is a commercial break. Because they understand that beyond 7.5 minutes, a human being will not be able to. In our conventional classroom-oriented strategy, we don't take this into account. The class is 45 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever. That is decided by the logistics requirement of handling large language, not by the requirement of learner learning. So what we do as teachers, that we try to ask questions, we try to interject something, we take a pause and let students ask questions, etc., etc. What do students do? They cannot obviously concentrate fully for 40 minutes except for some exceptions. So most of the students attending a class, I remember I was a student, same thing happened. So many times we are looking at a teacher, apparently, but many of us are looking through the teacher. Sometimes you are looking here and there, sometimes talking to people. Sometimes there are windows open and there is very green, nice part outside, so I am looking outside the window. Sometimes there is greenery in the class. So I have umpteen mechanisms of disorienting myself. Occasionally I listen to the teacher. That is what happens to every human being. But as a teacher, I have to speak for 40. In individual Khan tutorials, Sal Khan introduced a friend tutor. So it's not a tutor, it's a tutoring assistant. Being based on AI, that tutor, which is actually a bot on the machine, analyzes the learning behavior of the individual student who is observing Khan tutorials, who is going through it, and is able to advise the student as a friend, ye pehle karo, wo pehle karo. This tutor does not give answers. This tutor does not give solutions. But this tutor helps in teaching. So he calls it Khan Amigo or Khanmigo. Now that's a very good example of how AI could be used in supporting whatever way you are teaching students. I think we have not yet tried to internalize that approach in our environment. In spite of all the AI and all, in my concluding part, I would just like to stress a few basics which will never go away from teaching learning. The teaching learning process, we must all fully remember, always remember, A, how learning happens, and B, what are the key factors in effective teaching. Ordinary technology or AI assisted technology has to be used in the context of these basics. So my first observation, the learning process. How and when does learning happen? So when a learner's mind acts, when a learner reads something, listens, observes, thinks, writes, solves problems, experiments with, when a student makes mistakes and realizes these mistakes, when a student asks questions, discusses, collaborates, these are the various activities when a student does, the student learns. My humble submission is to remind all of you that learning does not and cannot happen otherwise. That means if I am a student, if you are teaching me, if I decided to look through you, if I decide to look at the greenery outside or inside, you can't do a thing about it. It's my free will. So I will learn only if I listen to what you are saying. I will learn only if I solve the problem that you give me. I will learn only when I read, think, write. I will learn only when I ask questions. I will learn only when I discuss with others. It's the only way I will learn. I will never learn other way. Now, even with good content delivery and assessment, learning will happen only because the student decides to learn. I think that's a fundamental basic principle we must remember. An important conclusion is that as a teacher, I must therefore try to enhance the quality time spent by students. And that is where using well-defined curated content, well-delivered lectures, using assessments which are designed to challenge the mind of the student, all these help. Because by doing all these, I am actually trying to ensure that every student in my class pays maximum quality time into learning. So you can engage students in multiple ways, and that is what we all try by. I mean, when we say somebody is a very good teacher, without perhaps knowing it, what the teacher is doing is achieving this, maximizing the time, quality time spent by every student in the class. The synchronous environment helps, by the way. So by attending classes, discussing, questioning, collaborative problem solving. The classroom, when the students go out, they will discuss, some of them will discuss the problem that you have given. That is collaborative problem solving. Preparing for exam. I mean, that's a very, very important learning point, although we discard that. But preparing for exam is an important learning point. The question is, can, as a teacher, I do something more? So this is an important realization I was fortunate enough to realize and helped by many senior colleagues to realize. There might be 75 students in my class, but for each student, I am the only teacher. Many times we forget that. Because we are asked, we are looking at the whole class. Class may be a statistics, but an individual student is a human being. We often forget that. I must remember that I am accountable to each student. My job is not just to ensure that the average of the class improves. My job is not to ensure that the result of my class is very good. Meaning, so many people pass the course. No, that is not the ambition. I must ensure that each student learns the most that he or she can. All students are not equal, that is nonsense. There will be intellectual differences, there will be background differences, there will be motivational differences. But does each student in my class ends up learning the most that he or she can? That's the best I can do. Is there anything that I do to ensure that? What is it that I can do apart from perpetually trying to improve my delivery style, giving them curated content, challenging assignments? I believe that one of the fundamental things which I must do is reach out to every student. So my motto in life has been connect, relate and motivate. Particularly in these days when good content is available at a variety of places, perhaps the greater emphasis on connecting, relating and motivating people is very, very good. In this context, I always ask this question. How many of us know the names of all 75 students of a class that I am teaching? I used to mug those names when there used to be 50, 60 students for 2 days. When I had 300, 350 students, it was impossible because I am a forgetful professor like most people. But I did a fancy stuff because by that time, the registration used to be online and I could see the name of a student and the photograph. So what I would do is, before the class, I would spend 10 minutes in mugging up the names and remembering faces of some 10 students. Then in that class, I will ask pointed question to those individuals by name. Now that used to have a very fantastic effect. I mean, a student in a class of 300 could never imagine that this idiot knows me by name. But when I say, Miss So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, what is your answer to this? And it sort of churned reaction. I'll of course forget those 10 names. Next class, I will have 10 different names. This helps. The point is, how many people are able to, willing to, and have time to spend on individual connectivity like this? To help laggards, each of the individual students, to try to find out what their problems are. Believe me, students may not open up, but if you talk to them, they will open. And I think it is extremely important to set up individual one-on-one relationship to the extent possible. In the same way, there is an enormous responsibility for the learners. What prevents the learners from doing the same thing? There is nothing new that I specified in how learning happens. All of you know that. And yet, do you maximize the quality time that you spend on learning? Do you, on your own, try to connect and relate with your teachers and with your other friends? You do try to connect with other friends in having a cup of chai or bunking a class and seeing a movie. I mean, I did it when I was a student in some 70, 60 years ago. But more than that, solving problems together, opening up to a teacher, going to a teacher and saying, sir, I have this problem. It is responsibility. Please remember that scoring marks is important, but at best all these marks are door openers. You may get an interview call or something if you have a high first class. And if you have a low second class, people may not look at you, you have to fend for yourself. Quite often the high second class people end up doing better in life than the high first class people, but that's a different story. There is a joke which I am tempted to share with you. A friend of mine in IIT, great successful industrialist, so he was describing entrepreneur requires completely different kind of skills, temperament, which you can easily develop and do. It has absolutely nothing to do with the marks that you obtain in the class. Understanding a subject is more important than just marks. And for students and teachers both, I would say use technology maximally. Use open source web contents. Most of you would have referred to Wikipedia, right? Beautiful articles are available describing the gist of many of the concepts. You must use emails and discussion forums. You must use all online processes if possible. But emails have to be properly written. How are you is written as HWRU. That is not correct. The world that you will face when you grow up as professionals will expect you to articulate yourself well. Learn to speak a language well, learn to write a language well. Email that you write, a longish email. I still follow this principle that before pressing the send button, I read the complete email, examine if there are any visible mistakes, correct them and send. Do you? Or you are in a hurry, you type something, touch, enter. The email is gone, and then you say, oh my God, I made that mistake. But that mistake has become well known to the world. Now, this simple sense, I must perfect this technique. So use technology, but use it well. The second point I would suggest is education and research, unfortunately, has been separated out by our system. It's terrible. My contention is these are two sides of the same coin of knowledge. And research actually is developing a mindset which permits you to do rigorous assessment of it, mindset which tells you to do good analysis, mindset which helps you to build very beautiful articulation, both written and verbal. A mindset which teaches you perseverance. There will be failures. Those who have done PhD or doing PhD will know that. But you have to keep working on it, SAMAJ'S on it. So perseverance. And all these are fundamental characteristics which are required in life anyway. When you acquire these characteristics, somebody someday gives you a PhD degree. But the purpose of that PhD degree is to say you have acquired this research mindset. And research mindset is universal. Don't we want a 5th standard school student to be able to articulate properly? Don't we expect a second year BTech engineering student to be reasonably correct in analyzing a problem, in rigorous representation of that problem? Don't we expect a postgraduate student to be innovative problem solver? Don't we expect somebody in industry to apply his entire knowledge to solve a larger problem? There are so many people in industry who have acquired this mindset without a professional PhD degree. Sadly, in academics, I find time and again people who have a formal PhD degree, but their mindset is orthogonal to this mindset. This should not happen. So acquire that mindset. Prepare for the livelihood, not just for jobs. Conventional jobs may or may not reduce, may change in mind. But in conventional jobs also, you will be required perpetually to do new things which are never expected from that job even today. So learnability improvement is the most important thing. And therefore, my humble request, only teachers have to become, every human being has to become a lifelong. Facts which will not change. This is the first fact which we must remember. You have only 24 hours in a day. And you need to sleep, you need to sleep. Teachers and 24 hours. And time is a one-way street. You know, if you lose money, you can earn money more. You lose some goods in life, you can get it. But time once gone is never comes back. So it's a one-way street. So be very careful. And there are enough chores to be done. If I am a teacher, I have family responsibilities, I have other things. If I am a student, I have to play games in the evening, I have to see movies with friends, I have to chat with others. There are so many activities other than education. Within that span, I have to find time. And therefore, every moment I spend on education must be a quality moment spent. With that time, maximize effective learning time, and teachers maximize individual interaction are the two small things which I would like to humbly put forward to all of you. It's too late. Can I just take a few minutes? Because these are all the stories. I have yet to write my memoirs, but these stories, two stories, made a lot of sense. I had taken a sabbatical mood around the country visiting smaller colleges, and one of the colleges I visited was NASHIK. In every college, I would interact for a day with final year students giving me presentation on their projects. Even 20 years ago, many of those projects were frauds. Students would have copied them from somewhere or other. But in every college without exception, I found one or two batches who had worked so diligently, so beautifully, learned something, applied their knowledge to that problem. They could not speak very good English, but they were technically absolutely marked. So, and one day I would spend with teachers visiting labs, and I will typically ask teachers, what is something different on you that you do? So everywhere I met one or two teachers who did something differently and unique. This teacher told me, sir, I run a Sunday lab. What is a Sunday lab? He's an electronics teacher. So he says, we decide on a problem. I explain the problem to the students about, and then they have to design circuits for it. So they do analysis, they do design, then I give them some component, they spend their own money, they actually build those circuits, then we test them, and we compare those circuits and decide which one is good and so on. Brilliant. I said, सब students आते हैं? नहीं sir, 15-20 लोग आते हैं. Class of 70, 15 to 20 students come. But I said, this is phenomenal. Those 20 students are spending 3 hours every Sunday attending a session where they know it has nothing to do with the marks in examination. I said, brilliant what you are doing. And you know what he told me? Sir, आप पहले आदमी हैं जो मुझे कह रहे हैं कि मैं कुछ अच्छा काम कर रहा हूँ. मेरे सब साथी हंसते हैं. And some people even say, mad है, syllabus छोड़ के बाहर का पढ़ा रहे. So you see, I realized that the fundamental difference between IITs are not fallen from the sky. They're made by the same people. The difference is such people are in majority in IIT. And in smaller colleges they exist, but they are in minority. I think you have to increase that number so that they become majority. The new education policy provides for such learning by such things, which somehow we have to incorporate in our mainstream education. For students, I would like to recite a story. Actually, there is a YouTube video in Marathi. If you ask for Phatak on science education in Marathi, I met this student, this is a 9th grade student then. I was called by Marathi Vigyan Parishad to talk about information technology in Marathi. So it was after a long time that I spoke in Marathi. I prepared well, the lecture went well. About 300 boys and girls from largely tribal area around Vada in Thane district. And very good questions were asked. At the end, when the lecture ended, there was a sort of large courtyard where these girls and boys took out their notebooks and they wanted my signature. I felt like a movie star, sat at one place. And one boy was standing there. I asked him, "Tula sahi pahiye ka?" "Nahi sir, mala tumhala kahi prashna vicharache. I want to ask you some questions." I said, "Okay, wait." But as I was signing, some organizers came and said the chief guest is waiting for a cup of tea. He has to go. He's a local MLA. And you also said you have to go back early. I said, fine. I finished that signature, started going, and this boy held my hand. He said, sir, you promised to answer me. So I said, sorry, but the organizers are calling for a tea. He said, sir, I walked 10 kilometers to attend your lecture. I stopped suddenly. He said, why? I walked 6 kilometers to my school. So I asked him, don't you have any bus or tempo or tum-tum or something like that? And he smilingly said, I have sir, but parvadat nahi. I can't afford. I walk. And then proudly said, I stand first in my class. I said, I told the organizers to have a cup of tea, I spent time. What do you want? What should I do to become an expert in information technology? That was his question. So I told him 9 standards, you study 10th, 11th, 12th. take admission to engineering college. I told him about IIT. And I said, become a good engineer, you will learn that. I realized that he must be asking this question because people were getting very high salaries in IT then. I suppose it continues in some areas even today. But coming from an extremely poor family, that must have been his motivation. That's what I felt. So after question and answer, just to confirm, I asked him, why do you want to become an expert in information? And you know what that 9th standard tribal boy told me? Said, sir, तुमचे एक विद्यार्थी आहेत नंदन निलेकणी. त्यांनी एक कंपनी बनवली इन्फोसिस. मला त्याच्याहून मोठी कंपनी बनवायची आहे. Can you believe that? Now to my young students I would say, please aspire. Please aspire for big things in life. And please work hard to acquire that aspiration. It's not easy. So that's all I just want to end this with. So keep your minds open, maximize curiosity, hard and focused work, adopt technology. And a friend of mine, his name Satish would know, Dr. Y, who is principal of MGM College in Delhi. Some 20 years ago, I was giving this talk and he sent me this photograph, saying these are how beautiful the dewdrops look like. For me, the definition of dew is dream big. This is not my wording. Enjoy everything, enjoy life. But the third, enjoy everything, enjoy life. But the third, work hard. Because there is no substitute for hard work in meeting your aspirations. That's all I would say. Thank you very much for your attention.
Any questions? Students, any questions?
I would suggest that those who have questions could kindly compile those questions and somebody could send me by an email, and I would answer all of them. I do take time to respond to emails, but I will read each and every question and I will respond to all. I think that is best. But maybe you have one or two quick questions.
Sir, because of current automation using artificial intelligence, machine learning in all fields, how can education system bring innovation and research at the engineering level like it is there in the PhD automated?
The first and foremost.
Badly affected content.
Come again? The commercial.
So, do you think the commercialization of technical education so badly affected quality of engineers in current times?
I don't think that because they are not able to think for themselves. The commercialization of education on one hand has made that opportunity for education is now available to everybody. At one time it was not available. The number of engineering institutions in the world are so few that a large number of talented students could not get admission. Now, not only IITs, NITs have increased in numbers, but the number of engineering institutions is 4,500. Most of them are commercial institutions. But please understand that students and their parents keep their eyes and ears open. There are a number of engineering institutions which are not running at all. They are commercial institutions, but students don't want to go there. On the other hand, there are commercial institutions which are costly, but students flock around it because they know of the quality of education. So students will and their parents will always be discerning. They'll find out what is good, what is not good. And overall, I don't think commercialization per se is responsible for any downgradation of power. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving your valuable time and sharing immense knowledge and expertise with us. I would request Dr. S.R. Pazurkar, sir, to present vote of thanks.
Sir, I was wondering why this artificial intelligence has not been a name as artificial wisdom, because I think the entire session is the explicit of the difference between the wisdom and intelligence, and I think you are truly enlighten us by showing the wisdom. While actually some of because I need to give a vote of thanks, so I was just checking about some of the keywords of yours. So I thought that I just did a chat GPT about this understanding the human intelligence and artificial intelligence. So I came to know about this. Human intelligence is the inspiration, AI is the innovation, and together they shape the future of intelligence. But I think Professor Phatak sir's his neural infrastructure is such that that people like Phatak sir, they turn their human intelligence into a swarm intelligence and apply this kind of intelligence to develop the artificial intelligence, and which is helping, and that is the reason they are shaping our futures. Because if you see that the people like Phatak sir, the entire of their journey, the dedication and passion, they are solving the life complexities of ours and making our life so smooth and luxurious. So I really thank you, sir, because of your dedications and all that. So now I come back to the formal vote of thanks. So on behalf of our institute, sir, I extend our deepest gratitude for sharing your invaluable insights during your session. And we are profoundly grateful for your time, knowledge, and wisdom. I also thank all faculty, students who attended these sessions. And the request from this dais, sir, because I think while driving with you, so you said that 3 years back you retired, but people will not let you retire. I think I think people like you should not retire. I think that's because if this kind of wisdom is something which will really invaluable. It requires continuously. We need to preserve such kind of wisdom. So I request all of you to give a standing ovation of Padma Shri Dr. Deepak Phatak sir. And sir, the last, it is very important that while actually going through the name of sir, Padma Shri, right? So the Padma is something which we always see that. Sir has shown the last slide is a Padma, the big. So the government of India has really recognized the Padma Shri, the Deepak. It is something is all of us know is the ray of hope. And the Phatak is the gateway. I think you are truly the name which will help us. Thank you, sir.